All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, on this warm, beautiful, sunny spring day that we're having. So glad to have you join us this evening. So for those of you who are not on my first webinar, my name is Felix, and I'm a waste reduction assistant with the City of Santa Cruz. And for those of you who were here, welcome back and glad to see that you've returned for more. So last webinar, we learned about the often long journey that food takes to get to us and all the places that food can potentially be quote unquote lost. As for tonight, I'm really excited because not only will we talk about actual tips on how we can use up and extend the life of food in our homes, but we will also have local chef Diego Felix joining us to give us freestyle cooking tips based on what is in your fridge right now. So start thinking about what you have in your kitchen that needs to be used up and get ready to share that in a word cloud activity so Diego can help us out. So just as usual, a bit of housekeeping. If you have questions that come up, please enter them into the Q&A at any time. And at the end of the webinar, Leslie O'Malley, the Waste Reduction Program Manager, will be moderating those questions for us. So if we don't get to your question online, we'll work to get an answer to you offline. This call is being recorded, but all participants are on mute and cameras are set to off. And don't forget about the raffle at the end as well. You must be present for the whole call to qualify, so be sure to stick around for the duration. And again, if you attend all three in the series, you can be entered to win a compost bin or an equally valuable prize. So come back for the last one next month on June 1st. And if you do still need to sign up for that date, it can be signed up for on the same Eventbrite link where you signed up for this one. So here is a brief agenda to give you an idea of what's to come this evening. First, we'll talk about some tips and ideas for you to practice at home. Then we will have a word cloud activity to get Diego's creative juices flowing to help him help us learn how to be creative in the kitchen with what foods you already have on hand. We'll then have some time for questions, and of course we will raffle off our prize, which is shown here, a copy of a very, very useful book called The Waste-Free Kitchen Handbook, some reusable food savers, and a pack of plant-based food wraps. Let's stick around. All right, so to get us started, I wanted to briefly revisit the cost of wasted food, which we talked some about in the first webinar. But this image just shows us a breakdown of the cost of wasted food along all parts of the supply chain. And as we learned in the first webinar, challenges are certainly faced by all who deal with both all growing, selling, and even donating food. However, if you haven't already noticed, where the biggest loss comes in is in the home and in our homes and in normal everyday residential communities, making 37% of this breakdown by refed. So with that being said, what can we actually do about it? Well, I'll begin by getting right into some practical and useful tips for you to use to prevent edible food from being lost in your own home. It really just is about putting a little bit of creativity into your habits with your food as you incorporate more and more ideas, it will become second nature for you to find ways of incorporating that last bit of yogurt into a dish or freezing that extra cauliflower you don't want to use yet. These guidelines and ideas that I'm going to share have primarily been taken from a campaign created by the EPA known as Food Too Good to Waste, and in an effort to combat and educate the US about food waste prevention. So let's dive right on in. So the first one, we have smart shopping. This is where there's probably the most opportunity for you to practice source reduction. So simply don't over purchase, right? Even if there's a great sale, which I am certainly guilty of, if you don't have a plan, that sale won't do you any good in the long run if food is going to go bad, right? Next is shopping with a list and plan meals in mind. This will help determine about how much of something to buy and help avoid those impulse purchases. You can also cross-plan meals. So if you need cilantro, for example, which sometimes is a hard one to use up, I've experienced that certainly. you know, plan for using it in your soup, but then maybe plan another meal down later in the week that you can use up that whole bunch. That will definitely help you. And then lastly, I think it's a good idea to have universal staples to encourage you to eat the foods that are maybe a little less inspiring to you. So for example, if you're trying to incorporate more veggies in your life, but you're unlikely to finish a whole bunch of kale, maybe make sure you have something you really do enjoy, like your favorite sauce or a nice cheese that will encourage you to eat those last few leaves before they spoil. Another sort of example of a universal staple is even something as simple as rice. You know, if you have a bunch of veggies, but no rice to eat it with, you might be discouraged to cook up those veggies really quick if you don't have a tortilla or something to throw them into, right? So this next one happens to be my personal favorite, smart storage. It's so gratifying once you're able to make that bunch of herbs last you a week or more after watching it, you know, go limp in the fridge after only 24 hours sometimes. So I won't read all of these detailed points, but what I can say is definitely get to know your fridge and those humidity drawers that have always seemed to be a mystery, just with the little dials and not much indication as to what they mean. But in general, you want high humidity for produce that may wilt easily, like greens and brassicas, which are like cauliflower and broccoli, those types of things, while the low humidity is best for produce that is more likely to mold or get squishy and rot, like mushrooms or strawberries. Additionally, the old jar of water with a plastic bag over the top works really great for leafy greens and herbs, and that goes for a bunch of kale, your bunch of cilantro, any of those types of things. And maybe not everyone knows this one, but waiting to wash produce until you're going to eat it also helps slow the rate of the breakdown. The added moisture from that rinse can increase the decomposition, so hold off on washing all at once. And when you start thinking about all the different foods you have to store, it can definitely be fun exploring the best storage for those different products. So I'll be sure to send out a follow-up email with a guide that will show the best conditions for storage of all types of food, from dry goods to coffee to things in the refrigerator and even the freezer. So I definitely went down a wormhole when I learned about all the different storage options. And I'll quickly, in case you missed resources, I'll plug the website savethefood.com. You can go there and look at any kind of food really, and it'll tell you how to store just about anything, and you know, shelf life and all those great tips and tricks. Okay, so next from the EPA Food to Good to Waste campaign is Smart Prep. So basically, this is where lots of creativity can come in. So can you blend a quick pesto with that extra parsley and freeze it for next time, for example? Or maybe you need to cook that broccoli so it doesn't go bad, then freeze it for a quick veggie option when you're tight for time. You know, everyone says frozen food is bad, and maybe sometimes it is, but it's because they, you know, load it with preservatives. But if you're just doing it in your own kitchen from a fresh bunch of broccoli, it's not gonna, you know, have the same effect. It's certainly that same broccoli, just frozen and ready for you when you need it. So the freezer is your friend. You know, freezing meat is also common practice, so why not do the same with produce, right? Cooking will also help food last longer that is close to going bad, and then you've got some meal prep for your week, right? And then lastly, I'll say that if you don't like chopping and preparing much in the first place, when you do decide to do it, carve out a little bit of extra time to just prep it all so you can grab it and use it for the next time instead of spending that time chopping and cutting every time you cook. Prep is often a barrier, I've heard, as a reason why someone may decide to eat out instead of cooking food they already have. So if you have everything ready to just throw in a pan, time can definitely be saved, and you may be, you know, more inclined to utilize those bits that you need to get rid of instead of throwing them into compost, or worse, the landfill, which we learned, right? We don't want to put it in the landfill because that can create methane gas, a greenhouse gas. So anything we can do to keep it out of landfill, one, and ideally out of compost as well, and into mouths, right? And then smart savings. Let's see. So lastly, this is what the EPA recommends to reduce your food waste at home. So basically, this is just utilizing strategies and tools to remind us to consume certain foods before others that may be ready to eat. So an example of this might be as simple as putting a shoebox in your fridge labeled "Eat First," so that you can use it to fill with, that last bit of cheese that might turn soon. Also, just being realistic with yourself. If you're trying to get more greens again, but won't be able to finish that huge container of spinach, maybe consider buying smaller amounts or sharing with others. Again, having that dressing on hand too will encourage you to eat a bit of that leftover spinach. I like to say, if you can eat what you enjoy and enjoy what you eat, less may go to waste, right? Hopefully there were some helpful tips in there for you, but now I do want to move on to sort of the best part of our evening and the part I'm most excited about, which is our guest chef, who will help us understand what it can mean to be a freestyle cook. So by using what you have on hand to make meals and avoid food waste. So I'm excited to introduce you to local chef Diego Felix. Diego has a superstar background in all things food, and most specifically Latin American food. Born just outside of Buenos Aires, Argentina, and eating his way up to California, Diego's here to share his creative culinary magic here in Santa Cruz. He has created Colectivo Felix, as well as Fonda Felix, a label owned by him and his wife Sandra, where they're making fresh empanadas on the west side. So look out for that. Diego is also part of the international slow movement and has participated in a slow food movement event known as Disco Sopa, or Disco Soup, which is the largest international collective effort to combat food waste and its impacts on climate change. So to get Diego inspired, he actually wanted to hear from you all so that he could give tips on the foods we are actually dealing with in our own kitchens. So here is where you come in. We've got a quick activity for you here. I'm just going to get everything online here. Let's see. So right now I'm going to post a link in a poll screen. So if you just copy and paste that link into your browser, it will prompt the question that we've got. So hopefully everyone can figure this out. And if you're unable, please let us know in the Q&A if for some reason you're unable to get to that. And Diego, if you're there, I'd like to welcome you also to share your video and join us here. Great. So Diego, let's see, I think we've got some asked to unmute you as well. I think you're still on mute there, but if while we're waiting for everyone to sort of answer this question, if you have any background you'd like to share about yourself, please let us know what you're all about.
Okay, can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, everything's okay?
Yeah.
Shall we go? Okay. Well, guys, thank you very much for inviting me. It's very interesting, all the knowledge that we can have and all the things that we can learn from this little seminar, this little talk. But also the reality is that, I'm a dad and I'm a dad and we are 5 in the family. So imagine sometimes getting organized, and even getting organized to have a breakfast is kind of difficult in the day. So I'm gonna show you a little bit about my skills, about how you really can create something from, or a meal from almost scratch. And I took the crazy idea of not even getting anything and just like get what we have in the fridge and show you a little bit of some tricks that we have.
So from our feedback, I can give you the #1 answer so far, and that is bread.
What's the question about?
So the question is, what is an item in your fridge or pantry that can be difficult to use before it spoils or goes bad? So I see the top answers so far are bread and lettuce and mushrooms. Ooh.
Okay, bread, it's kind of one of the easiest things that we can do. Bread, if we know already, if we already know that it's the loaf is too big, we can already cut it, put it in the oven, low heat with a little bit of olive oil. And I'm going to give you some other tricks that can, because the thing is, we humans are what we want always to eat. It's umami. We want something that, we know we can program, we can organize, but also the animal inside us wants a little bit of, strong flavors. So with bread, we just can cut it small, put it in the oven with olive oil, blend it, and then put nutritional yeast. That bread and nutritional yeast could go on top of spinach, on top of lettuce, on top of any salad that you want to make. That would be something very easy to make. Or if not, the very easy way to make little pizzas, like cut the bread, have it already cut it, got some tomatoes, got some, always have something fun on the pantry. That's something that I will recognize, like, I don't know, let's see. Well, I have, I don't know, artichoke hearts, I have sardines, so with that, artichoke heart, sardines, bread, you can use it for tapas, or there's another thing for bread that it's beautiful to make. That's another recipe. That's kind of a long thing, but it's budín de pan. It's a bread pudding, guys. You do bread pudding.
Mm-hmm.
So bread pudding, you have some eggs, you have some milk, you have some cinnamon. The thing is, for me, that I want to share with you, that the most important thing that I want you to take from this seminar is mostly about the ingredients. Basically, the ingredients is the canvas that we can create. The most important thing for me, for you to take from this, is start using spices. Spices change the world. And actually, literally, spices change the world. That we're all here because of spices. Columbus came to this area because of spices, all the spices trade. So people were looking for spices. Why? We want to keep the food lost long. So, let me see.
So yeah, I've got some other ones if you want some other tough food items that people are having go to waste. So dairy with milk and cheese, and then lettuce and mushrooms.
Okay, with milk, actually, I will say you can make buttermilk with a kind of, but that's a kind of a very specific thing that what I would recommend always is don't buy up those big gallons of milk. That would be easier, because you can make buttermilk for that, and you can make pancakes, but you have to be very specific, and that will take more time that we don't have. With lettuce, what I do with lettuce, it's an amazing lettuce soup. Basically, what you do is you start with a white, potato. You start with potatoes. You start with, I have half fennel. So potato fennel and a little bit of water. With a lot of spices, like, right now I have fennel. I brought all this stuff so you to think because the thing is, lettuce by itself is not so interesting, but if you create a whole dish and push the lettuce out, like showing the lettuce as something important. For example, this lettuce soup that you cook everything, you boil everything, and at the end you add the soup, you add the lettuce. So the soup is going to be more green and brighter and fresh than, like cooking the lettuce all the way in the soup.
Great. So one more, and then you can get on to some demos if you'd like. What about mushrooms?
Mushrooms, the best way is dehydrate them.
Ah,
You have if everybody, I think now, I hope everybody does those little ovens, like they're like small ovens like this, the one that right now I'm using to put the computer. But you cut the mushroom and you put them very, very low heat, in like the lowest heat in the oven, and then you dehydrate it for an hour. You can keep it in the jar, and that mushroom, it's an umami enhancer. So going back to the thing that I want to share is like, we want umami. We want that, animal flavor, or that juicy, or that strong flavor that we want to use that as the connection to our animal part. Then you said something about cheese.
yes.
Okay, so this is something that I learned working in a restaurant. The chef, what he did, I couldn't believe what he was doing. He was, using let me show you. I have, like cheese. This is a hard part of the cheese that actually it's too hard to use. So the guy, he was doing is like cutting in kind of small and putting it in the liquid for stock. So using all the pieces of the rinds, you say the rinds or the
yes, rinds.
The rinds of the cheese, and use it for stock. That will help that will enhance a lot of flavor in the water, in the liquid. And then of course you strain it, and you don't use that part, but that's
wow.
That's the really good thing about to do with the.
And so you probably couldn't put any bits of soft cheese in a soup unless it's the garnish on the top.
Basically, I think it's more interesting with hard cheese.
Yeah.
Because hard cheese is gonna the flavor, and the soft cheese is gonna melt. So we want the flavor. We don't want the piece of cheese in the liquid for the stock,
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
that's what you do with hard cheeses. You use it for stock.
Right. Wow.
And, okay, what I wanted to show you is something that I learned, and also I have like the first thing. I have many things to teach. I don't know, we're gonna have time, but the first one is.
Diego, to the other camera, if you want to turn that one on so that it's showing your board there, that would be wonderful. So we can all get a view of what's going on below.
Okay. Okay. Can you habilitate me?
Don't see it yet.
Okay, well, I'm gonna start anyways with some ideas. I bet it's connecting to audio.
There we go. Looks great.
Okay, so now you can see my hands.
Yep.
Okay. Simple. What do we do with an old potato? Old potato here, old potato here. One potato, what do we do? Okay, the first thing that I teach for people is like, okay, the first thing you can do with a potato that blow my mind, and this is a little tip that's why I sometimes I do cooking classes, and this is a great tip for teenagers, because this is like I always tell, this is for the rest of your life, because for sure you're gonna be living by yourself sometimes, and you're gonna come home hungry and with nothing, and what you can do is just make papa rosti. Papa rosti is this. What I'm just gonna do is gonna grate a potato. The idea, I don't like kind of roasted potato because they're too starchy, but this is Yukon Gold, and it works really good. So basically, guys, what I'm doing is just like grating an old potato, okay? This is not fancy, no magic. no magic yet. So, okay. Great potato. Put it in a mixing bowl. Clean the area. Okay. Salt. A little bit of paprika just because I have some, but you don't need to. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
Thanks.
A little paprika. Can you see this? I don't know if you see this. Is grated potato, guys, and salt. Okay. Now we're gonna go to a little bit of olive oil. This is a traditional Scandinavian dish. It's kind of interesting how Scandinavians use potatoes as a staple. And I don't know if you know that potatoes are from this continent. So potatoes are originally from America. Okay, so right now I'm doing papa rosti. Papa rosti is grated potato with a little bit of salt. Kids love it. Everybody loves it. It's very easy to do. Then let me show you what I'm gonna open a little thing. Let me grab. Okay, what shall I do with this old parsley? I have two things to do. One is chop it. I already made this. Chop it. You know what this is? Herbs and olive oil. Well, let me take this. This is too hard. This is herbs and olive oil. Do you see this? So this is a beautiful way to save. I bet you see it here. It's a beautiful way to save all the herbs that you don't gonna use. For example, right now I'm gonna use this. Let's put it on the rosti. So while we're doing that, we're gonna use that I've learned not so long ago from an Argentinian friend, another chef friend. You know, I used to do chimichurri, and I asked him, as he was Argentinian, you know what? I said, "Don't you make chimichurri? I'm not going to ask you how you make it." And what he did is he started from the bottom. You know, he started from the bottom of the stems. So we use the stems. In Fonda Felix, my kitchen in Santa Cruz, where we sell empanadas, we make the chimichurri and we use the whole herb. So basically, we're always trying to use everything. I know it's difficult, imagine in restaurants, but also try to do some creative, which makes you think in a different way. So right now, we have this chimichurri, where we use the stems, we use everything. Then we have the papa rosti that is cooking here already. We have paparotti, we have chimichurri, we have 1 onion. The tips of the onion, or these parts, we're gonna save them for stock. So I'm gonna put them here. This is where in my family we save stocks, the stock. So for chimichurri, we try to use everything, but also if not, we can use it for stock. Okay, I'm gonna cut a little bit for you to know because we have so many things that I want to show you that maybe we're gonna have time, but okay. So right now we're just using onions, parsley, potato. Everybody in their houses, they have onion, parsley, and potato. I think it's a staple of this modern life. Let me check and let me see how this paparotti is doing. So let me show you, a ver, if I can get closer. This is paparotti. Ahí va, a ver. Ahí va. Beautiful. So this is just grated potato, one side. Beautiful. The other side. We're going to use a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of balsamic. I hope we have some chili flakes here. We do have chili flakes. Yes, we do have. A little bit of chili flakes. And boom, we have an amazing chimichurri to go with the paparotti. Okay, one. Okay, that's another thing. This is going fast, but I want to show you so many things. Okay, this is another thing that I've learned. So first, cauliflower, okay? Cut cauliflower in half, cut cauliflower in half again, and then we take just the green part. That's it. We're gonna use all of it, okay? The paparotti is done. So I'm gonna put it. You know how long it took the how long it took the paparotti to make? Nothing. Beautiful. Paparotti with chimichurri. That's a beautiful breakfast too, you know. So let's keep moving to this. Okay. There's another thing that I want to show you. Okay.
You have
So-
about 15 more minutes, so
Okay,
lots
so
of time.
okay, so first, what we do with the cauliflower, we use this part, okay? This is gonna be the base for our cauliflower soup, okay? And the florets, or whatever you call this, we're gonna saute them. So we're gonna use the whole veggie to cook, okay? So as you can see, what I'm doing, so this is a farmer's market cauliflower, so I think I'm gonna wash it a little bit because it has a little, okay, let me wash it a little bit.
While you are working on that, Diego, I just wanted to mention your root to stem philosophy or root to leaf philosophy, and trying to utilize that whole vegetable for different purposes and finding ways to use that whole piece. So I really love that you're demonstrating this.
Yeah, sometimes in the restaurants, you know, you have so many leftovers, but I think because I I cook in restaurants, or I've not been training formally, there's a lot of things that I've learned from seeing that I didn't think that was correct. Like, you just only leaves of the parsley, or things that, like, why don't we use just all? You can use it in different. For example, there's another thing that we're doing right now. Hold on. So what I'm doing this, I'm going to tell you what we're doing right now. For example, in the kitchen, that it's something that it's very funny or very interesting for me, because the sous chef, or the people that are working with me, when I told them what I was doing or why we're doing it, they said, yeah, it has totally sense. What we use is, right now we're in asparagus season, no? So what I did is like, let's use the whole asparagus. But how? Okay, basically being smart. And this is how do you use the whole asparagus? You cook them in different timing. So you start with the white part, the hard part. You cut it small, and you saute it. Just that part. Like the same as gonna do right now with the soup. With that part, you just talking to that, jumping. Sorry. I'm putting one of these. So this is a really, really, really good idea. A friend of mine and my dad, he's the one that showed me this. Like frozen herbs with olive oil. Bing. Okay, so talking about the asparagus, what you do is you think, or you see the asparagus like in 3 sections. The first part, like the base, you cut it very, very, very thin, and you cook it first. Then you cut the other half part, and you cook it, and then you add it to that sauté. And then at the end, you add the little stem, but you add it raw. Okay, so you don't need to cook it. Okay, look what I'm doing right now. I'm using all these parts, the core of the cauliflower, to make the base of it. Okay, so I'm going to cut it small okay. So now all this goes in here where we had the herbs and the oil. We're gonna cook that. We're gonna add some spices that we have. I think this is cumin. Cumin, it's one of my favorite ingredients. Another thing that it's very important, I think, for you to know, I already said it, but I want to say it again. Don't be shy on the spices. Go to the store and buy spices. I think that's it's gonna give you ideas to be more creative. Sometimes you don't know what to use, or sometimes you have basically one potato, or sometimes you have the ingredients, but I think the spirit of the ingredients, or the spirit of the food, is the spices. Remember that we're here because of spices. The whole world turned around, kind of, because of spices. So imagine how important they are. So imagine having a lot of spices. That's what I create. That's how you create a whole idea of what you want to cook. You have the canvas or the base, like, I don't know, you said the spinach or bread. You said bread. Okay, let's cut the bread. boom, boom, boom. And then you got some spices, mix them with olive oil, bread, olive oil, spices in the oven for a little bit. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to this, or I already have a little bit of stock. Okay, so what's my profile for this cauliflower? Okay, cauliflower is white, but I put a little bit of green. So let's use fennel, or no, anise. Let's use anise. So now we can go all to the Middle Eastern world and start thinking about, okay, what we can do. So that's the thing for me. What I'm cooking, I know it's difficult, but at a certain point, that's how you make it more fun. You know, you start building it. You start building, and you start building the dish from what the spices tells you. You know, right now I just said Middle East because it's anise. So you have a boiling soup with anise, garlic, and cumin. That's it. Okay, that's little one, and then let's cut the florets. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut these little ones because we just use the whole core. So let's make it like this so we don't have okay, all this, okay? Let's saute. Another thing that we can have, mira, that's another thing. Okay, anise, Middle Eastern, peeler, Meyer lemon from my neighbor. This is a good one. This is a really good idea. Yeah. If you don't have a peeler or a zester, so guys, I wish you were here to smell this beautiful, fresh. You know what? I'm gonna use this for my chimichurri. I'm just gonna cut it and add it to my chimichurri. So now we have a fresh. That's because today, you know, everybody, we're here in beautiful Santa Cruz, beautiful weather today. So if you want to make a soup for this beautiful weather, why don't you just make something fresh? So I add this to my chimichurri. This is a summery chimichurri. And yeah, okay. I'm gonna add, I think I have one with dill. So I'm gonna add a dill herb, a dill oil for these ones. There's another tip for me that can change the rest of your cooking is having a really good blender. So having a really good blender can change your entire way of cooking. For example, this blender that I have, this is a really good one, but this blender that I have, it even blends things raw. So it cooks so fast and so, blended so fast and so strong that even the veggies that you put here, they cook. So right now, okay. You actually don't do this in restaurants, you have to wait until this. Oh, it smells amazing. Okay, so in restaurants, you blend it when it's hot. So I don't recommend blending things when they're hot. But today, since we are in a rush, I'm trying to show a lot of things in one. I'm gonna blend. So hold on your ears. Okay. Smooth, silky soup that we're gonna combine. With and we create this from like in things that I had in everybody has in their fridge. Potato, beautiful potato for the rest of your lives. Papa rosti, forever, hangover, long night, ¿cómo se llama? Dish, beautiful, fresh, cauliflower soup. And the crazy thing about this is we didn't even use a cauliflower florets, you know, so this is just the core. So right now I'm just sauteing the bread. So today or tonight I show you how to make chimichurri that I just changed the idea of chimichurri. So this is more like a fresh chimichurri with my lemon. We can use a little bit of orange too. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut, sorry that I have, I'm gonna cut this orange again with a peel. So this is where all the oils are, all the flavor of the orange, not all the flavor, but you know, all the, I like to talk about spirit, you know, like the spirit of the things or the alchemy of the flavor, you know, instead of getting so technical. So this, I wish you were here to smell this summer Santa Cruz smells, you know, when I drive my bicycle in the neighborhood, there's a lot of citrus. Loading around.
Diego, just to keep you on track, just a few more minutes. Got about 3 minutes or so.
This is it, guys.
Awesome.
So we just did potato, cauliflower, parsley, and the most important thing, love. Mira, that's it. So we have, I think I'm gonna try it. I have to try it. So we have the cauliflower soup with the bone of the cauliflower and the stems on top. The papa rosti for teenagers from the rest of your life. That's a great thing to learn because you're gonna cook it for you, for your kids, so for anyone, you know, it's like fast. Even for camping, you know, you just, well, you have to take a grater. That's something that you think in advance, but you know, you're doing it in your house, you don't have to. And chimichurri and This was the only thing that I have in advance, just for you to show. And also the cheese, hard cheese, that we can use it for stock. Okay, guys. I think I have to try it. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
How is it?
Simple, beautiful, easy.
Looks amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got a full meal there. Wow.
A full meal with, I'm using a fork, sorry. Yeah, you have a full meal just with 3 ingredients.
Awesome. Wow. So how inspiring. Thanks so much. I can't wait to practice all of these different tips that you've given us. That's wonderful. One question I had that popped up while you're doing that. So with the citrus and peeling, say you have a piece of citrus that's going to be dried out. Does that drying out compromise using that peel still, or will you still get the same zest and flavor from that peel that's got a little bit drier?
You get the same zest and flavor, but you will have to use it. It's a good idea anyway to using it. You know, it's great to use it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I want to turn it over to Leslie and see if we do have any questions from the audience. So Leslie, have we got anything?
We do. So the questions seem to be around potatoes and citrus. So we had a question, is it okay? Is there anything you shouldn't put in compost? Some quick research showed that if you're worm composting, you wouldn't want to put citrus peels. But so question is, what about moisture level in potatoes when you're grating them?
That's a good question, but actually it's going to work anyways, you know.
Okay.
It's going to work. There's no matter. The only thing that I did with the one that it's harder to work is the russet potatoes because they're too starchy.
Okay.
But with the other ones, you can use all potatoes. You can use, you know, new potatoes. Now, I don't think it's going to change anything.
Okay. I'm still on potatoes. What else can you use potato peels for?
Potato peels? No, for that, I don't think we can use potato. Well, you can wash them and fry them.
Okay. And we saw you putting them into your bucket. Do those go into stock as well?
No.
No, you just compost those.
Yeah, no, not this one because you have to wash them. And sometimes, you know, so I also try to be realistic, you know, sometimes, you know, you just like, it's easier to peel it and you could take it to compost that use it for something else. You know, there's other things that are easier to make stock, you know, and takes less time.
Yeah, great. Let's see. I really liked what you did with the peel, the orange peels, because again, those aren't great in compost, and you don't have to have a zester. You showed us some amazing knife skills. One comment, great multitasking, looks great. Was fun to see an unedited cooking demo. Thank you. I'm glad to take away a few ideas and reduce waste.
Okay, great. Yeah. There's many ideas. There's a lot of things we can, yeah. So it's just the beginning of new ideas.
That's awesome. I think we got all the questions. Any finishing things you'd like to say, Diego, about your business in town or?
What I would like to say is, again, spices are the core of the food, you know, the core of the cuisine. If you have kind of, and you don't need to be, you can be adventurous, but you don't need to be adventurous. But if you try new spice every now and then, or have them on or just use them, even though you don't know what it is for, so you're gonna find it. You're gonna find a profile for you, for your personal favorite dish. You know, so it's very important for us as home cooks that we have knowledge, not knowledge like historical knowledge, but have knowledge about spices that can change the whole dal potato, grated potato to something amazing. You know, you can put a truffle oil, you can put, you know, a little bit of grated cheese, you know, so you start going there. So basically build from there. Always have a fun pantry that doesn't go bad. And the best thing is spices, you know.
All right. Well, you made it look really easy and you've definitely inspired us. Kaylee, I'll turn it over to you.
Okie dokie. Thank you. Thank you also, Diego. So now we're going to move on to the raffle really quickly and just do a quick spin and then we will call it an evening. So let's see. Again, like the first call, everyone has been assigned a number at random. So I will just check to make sure that person is here, but let's get to this wheel spin really quickly and see who won this little raffle. Again, the book and the food savers and the beeswax wraps are this month's prize. Number 52. Let's see here. Let me check with my Excel. And is that person here? Hey, we have a winner. Number 52 happens to be here. Awesome. Okay, well, again, thanks to everyone for being here. And I hope you learned something new and felt inspired to experiment with more food waste reduction tips in your own home. And thanks again, and hopefully see you in June. And thank you, Diego, once again for joining us and giving us an awesome demo.
Thank you very much for inviting me, guys.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Bye.